Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. We'll bring you up to speed with the biggest happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. There's been a lot of salvo between the presidency and Catholic Bishop Onaikon. Well, due to the visit of the Catholic Bishop Conference to the president. But that's not the focus, as well as what we're looking at. 3rd of August already, and we're just days ahead to the Osun State governorship election. It looks like it's going to be the survival of the fittest, as well as several other happenings around the country. We'll be through all of this right here on Lunchtime Politics. I'm Jeffrey Uzanabes. Let's get started with what the headlines are leading with. Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, says people around Governor Simila Ifobara did not have his best interest. The Sante is the most experienced politician in the state since 1999. And Governor Agbukefe signed executive orders to contain robbery, drug abuse, and illegal mining in Taraba State. In politics, sometimes they say there's silence before the storm. Are we there yet? Perhaps not. But we're beginning to see some thoughts and submissions and remarks. But first, let's get started with what played out in Rivers State at the weekend, where the federal minister of the Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has spoken extensively over the breakdown of his relationship with his political godson, Governor Fubara, and the events that led to the political standoff in that state. Speaking during a media chat in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, the minister blamed the prolonged political crisis in Rivers State on Governor Simila Ifobara's decision to create a political structure independent of the one that brought him to power, saying the move effectively jeopardized the governor's chance of securing a second tenure.
You have to be careful of advices. Like I said, you know how painful it is. Whether you like it or not, the governor, he knows what he saw. He knows what he faced. People who are around do not even know. All their own interest is fight. What is their contribution to that fight? It's an individual race. The governor has said, I'm going back to my political family. He cannot come and carry you. But if you believe, if you are sincere too, the governor said, look, this is the family that made me. And I believe that those of you I have appointed or who say are working with me are also members of this family. Now that I've gone back, it means that you should also go back. Chibigave, you know, that first president candidate is not a plus for Atiku Abubakar. He came out from national television and said he was one of those who kicked out President Jonathan. He said so. You didn't want a South person to be complete his tenure as president. So what we will take is vice president. Listen, a South person was a president. You came out of national television, you kicked him out. Not to the second tenure. Fine. The South have lost that position. Now they have given you a vice president to replace the president that was lost. In which part is that? You see, it will be difficult to sell it.
Let's stay with Rivers State. The Rivers Women Unite for Sim prayer group have announced that they will be following Simila Ifobara, the governor of the state, over his announcement that he's joining the Rainbow Coalition political group. This announcement was made in Port Harcourt during the prayer meeting by the group's convener, Sotonye Fulton. Addressing the women, she referred to the development as a bend in the road and that God had answered their prayer in bringing peace and political stability in the state. She also announced their support for the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu.
That I work and support His Excellency Sansinalayi Fuwari. The governor has said that he has gone back to his political family and that his backing His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And that also his backing, Honorable Oke Chinda, and stand with Sansinalayi Fuwari. A bend in anything, a bend in the road is not the end. When you
And away from that, political tension may be escalating in Ebonyi State ahead of the 2027 general election, as the opposition People's Democratic Party is accusing the state government of sponsoring violence against its members and journalists, highlighting a recent attack during the defection rally in Ezza South. However, the ruling All Progressives Congress has strongly denied the claims, insisting its members were not involved in the incident as both parties trade blame.
Vehicles were damaged and several people were assaulted with dangerous weapons. As I'm talking to you now, about 8 people are currently receiving treatment in the hospital. We have called this press conference to draw the attention of Nigeria and Nigerians to the undemocratic actions deliberately orchestrated to undermine the conduct of the 2027 general elections in Ebonyi State. We therefore call on all security agencies to uphold their constitutional responsibilities of protecting all Nigerians and ensuring that every citizen of Ebonyi State is free to exercise his or her civic responsibilities in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including the rights to freedom of association and political participation.
All my supporters were assaulted, prevented them from accessing the venue. I even had to leave to my compound in ensuring that there is peace in our land, because no personal interest is more than the life of an average Ebonyian. But yet, they also came to my compound and destroyed most of my properties, vehicles shattered, seats and canopies, the house, and made away with some motorcycles.
So far as it has to do with the APC family in Ebonyi State, the governor watches his body language. He don't want to offend anybody. And as such, we must do his part. There is no any time APC will have a hand, because you know too very well that if you dare get yourself involved into such act, the governor will abandon you. So as such, do not get yourself into violence. He is not a supporter of such.
All right, I did tell you, we may not have built a crescendo. The political season is building up, but let's talk about what's going on in Taraba State, where it may no longer be business as usual in the state, as the governor, Agbo Kefa, has assigned 3 executive orders to check thuggery, drug abuse, and the protection of mining communities. Speaking shortly after the signing orders at the government house in Jalingo, the governor said the measures had become necessary as a matter of urgency to safeguard the lives and future of the people.
Has become very necessary because campaign is approaching. We don't want unruly behaviors. It took us a lot to put the state where we are today. And I will not sit down here and allow anybody, I repeat, anybody, to frustrate the peace of the state. Whatever ambition anybody has, you will be given necessary support to express yourself to the people of Taraba State, to be able to make their choice. We are trying to recover our youths. We don't want anybody to use them, arming them with all sorts of weapons, knives, dagger, cutlasses. We are not going to war. Politics is not do or die.
Yes. Of course, we are approaching the period of electioneering, and it has always been an issue of concern to us, the leadership of the youth, about the conduct of our youths, especially during the campaigns. So we really appreciate the government, the governor, Dr. Abu Kefas, for the timely bringing to board these particular orders.
So we are going to work hand in hand, and the orders now is a guide for us to follow the due processes, ensuring that what is expected within the community is achieved.
Let me bring you my guest, Professor of Politics and Governance from the Ignatius Ajuru University of Education in Rivers State, Professor Kenneth Nweke. Professor Nweke, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Prof, there are a couple of things I would like to binge on. Perhaps let me start from your River State. The very first two stories I read was has to do with River State, and primarily the FCT minister or the former governor, immediate past governor of the state. He made a lot of comments around two political statements in this particular track that I played. First had to do with how Governor Fubara played himself out of the political calculation that made him lose out in being able to seek re-election, because right now he's even campaigning for Okechinda, joining the Rainbow Coalition, as well as campaigning for President Bola Tinubu. Some said it's just a lame duck working. His support base is literally gone, and so he's gone back to his family. That's on one hand. He's also talked about how former governor, his predecessor, Rotimi Amechi, worked against Goodluck Jonathan and prided himself in being at the vanguard of working against that. But now they're returning to collect the opposition of vice presidential candidates. When you hear these assertions, as somebody who understands the academics of the politics of Rivers State and Nigeria and perhaps the world at large, what do you make of it?
Well, there is nothing new that you have said, as far as I'm concerned, that the governor worked against himself, no doubt. There's no argument about that, because when the whole thing started, garnered a lot of support here and there. Unfortunately, he could not sustain it. And so, yes, he worked against himself. So let that be. Then, it's like he said, he's gone back to his family. Let's also hope that he's gone back, for good. And we shouldn't hear most of these things anymore, because Rivers State is lost a lot, in the last 3 years plus right now. So everywhere in Rivers State you go, people are disenchanted, it's disillusionment and all that, and people are divided along different interests and all that. But of course, the development which ought to be the major goal isn't there, and a lot of things are not happening in Rivers State. So I pray that he returns for good, so that Rivers State can breathe fresh air. Then on the side of the former Rivers State governor, yes, it was within his rights to run against the former president, who was also from the South and all that. So it was his political interest. The former president ran, and then himself, being the FCT minister, also supported the former president and all that. So it doesn't matter. But today, is he supporting him, or did he support him to the end? It's because of different interests. So you won't blame Rotimi Amechi for taking the decision he took at the time. You won't also blame the FCT minister for taking the decision of supporting Goodluck Jonathan at the time. And so if you supported it, then are they working on the same path now? They have different political interests today, or even before now. And so there's no need joining issues with what he has said. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing new about what he has said. All is about political interest. even if it so happens to him tomorrow too, he will also do what he's doing now, So, and Rotimi will also do what he's also doing. So that Rotimi is a running mate to Atiku does not change anything. So they are only asking votes from Nigerians, not particularly from South. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also running for election, which he is also supporting. And so it doesn't mean anything. They're also going to be asking votes from Nigerians. All we are asking, from them as politicians is that let them allow free, fair, and credible elections to happen in Nigeria. And so whoever that wins the election, of course, under a free, fair platform, then Nigeria and Nigerians will breathe fresh air. And so that the issues around manipulation of the process, the issues around violence and all of those, they should allow us to breathe fresh air in 2027. So that, of course, the essence of government is to protect lives and property and give the citizens the basic necessities of life. And so from local governments to states to the federal, as we speak, many Nigerians are hungry. Many Nigerians are, as I speak to you, I can't drive freely to my home community in Igwe, and yet we have over 150 oil and gas wells. And yet we sit in a state where we say we are treasure beds of the nation. We sit in a state, where you have, you have social justice. And so where is the justice? And so what Rivers people are asking for is that let there be free, fair, and credible elections. What Nigerians are asking is let there be free, fair, and credible elections, such that whoever that wins at all levels, should govern us. And when we are not satisfied with you, we also have the right to pull you off, second term bid and all of those. So when that happens, Nigeria will gradually grow. It's not about the issue of Fubara, it's not about the issue of Rotimi Amechi or the FCT minister. Rivers State as a state is bigger than all of those. Nigeria as a nation is bigger than all the politicians put together.
Prof, either by sagacity or by understanding how power works or by literally gaming the system, whichever you look, certain persons have been able to perpetuate themselves in power through successors. Saraki in Kwara State until the Otoge happened. And Nyesom Wike now is attempting to do that. It has never succeeded with anyone, but he's been able to hold sway so far. We can have Tinubu until he became president. After he left, in fact, Ambode had to pay the very strong price of not having to be succeeded or not succeeding. But somebody also break the barrier in those states about political godfathers in that state. I'm actually talking about political godfatherism. Because the reason I had to raise and give all of these references and examples, because in some of these places, using Rivers State as an example, do people really vote for people of their choice, or it's just what is left off of the decision of the power brokers? Do people really vote for their people of their choice or persons of their choice?
Thank you, my brother. The truth is that looking at Rivers State in 2023, residents of Rivers State actually voted their choices. That was one of the best elections we have ever had, in Rivers State. But every other thing is history. And so the truth is that I keep telling the voters across Nigeria, vote, come out in your large numbers. Don't say they have written results. Nobody has written any results. You can't take it away from the FCT minister. He is a political colossus. He is one person who has worked himself up where he is today. Nobody can take that away from him. And he has been able to manage his followership. Don't know the magic that he does have done so. Naturally, a lot of Rivers people follow him. And I always say that even without anybody attempting to manipulate the process, the kind of followership that he has, he will always have majority who will be willing to come out in the rain and the sun, under the sun to vote. So there's no need for followership and any other person to begin to attempt, to change the whole thing. Allow the process to run. if the processes run the way they should be, I'm sure that, like I said, he has a majority of followership that can stand the test of time on election day to vote. Because most Rivers people or most Rivers people are not even ready to stay in the sun or in the rain to vote. But they have followership that want to die because they are following him and all that. And so, if we do so, if we do have so, we've been able to establish that, then there's no attempt for anybody to want to manipulate any process. This is allow process to run. In Rivers State in 2023, Rivers people and residents voted their choices. But what happened to those choices is now history. But I want to employ every other person, even in 2027, not to relent. Don't say they have written a result. Nobody has written a result because even the politicians are also careful in what they are doing. Come out in your large numbers and vote, and also guard the vote, protect the vote, from different levels of coalition. Don't just vote and say leave them. Well, by the time you leave them, you are leaving them with the electoral officials who are going to be provided vehicles by the same politicians to convey them to different levels of coalition. And you don't know what will happen at those levels. And that is where the problem is. And so when you vote, stay there and protect your votes, and possibly escort, follow those who are carrying the result to the world level, to the local government level, and insist that what was voted at the polling unit is what is collated, at different levels. And that's why if Nigerians had insisted that INEC, must upload without having an option of whether network, no network, or this, that, and at the end of the day, that you don't have manual collation, then of course, this system would have been from polling units automatically. The whole thing goes to different levels of voting and the coalition, and all this issue of manipulation would have been a thing of the past, unfortunately.
All right, Prof, let's go to some national issues. Let me see whether I can squeeze in 2 more questions before we wrap up. Let's talk about these people that we're voting for. The president has been dotted with controversy for the better part of his political career, from the civil forfeiture of a drug-related issue in America to the issue of questions around about the source of wealth. I know he responded to some things there in Chatham House, to the issue of his credentials. Now the credentials has come up again. And I want your maybe characterization as well. He didn't put his primary school. He didn't put his secondary school. The basic requirement is school SAT. That's the minimum, but he presented something higher in terms of his Chicago State University, where he studied, I think, accounting or so. Now, that question has come again, because in Nigeria, for instance, you need to go to primary before you get to secondary, and then the university, at least in modern times. So what do you make of this, will I call it, recurring issue? Some have said maybe he doesn't have any legal encumbrance because that was sorted out in the court in the last petition he's going to run through. But what does he say about credentials of political office holders? We just have one who was charged for forgery, is facing ICPC. What does he say?
My brother, thank you so much for that question. Unfortunately, we run a system that leaders are not accountable at all. And then the followership is not so responsive and responsible enough to hold their leaders accountable. Ordinarily, even as an academic, wherever you go, even when they do verification and all that, they insist, for those of us who work for government and public institutions, they ask you for your primary school certificate. You do verification from time to time, maybe 5 years intervals and all that. They ask you for first school leaving certificate. They ask you for WAEC. They ask you for your first degree, second, master's, and PhD, and all of those, including your last promotions and all those. So if we are subjected as academics, or those who work in public institutions as such as ours, so why should any other person who is vying for that exalted position as president of Nigeria not be subjected to, such scrutiny? Why should the president, somebody who wants to be president, of course, if he has gone through the courts before, it doesn't matter. This is another process, second process, and then he's going through the process all over again. So it doesn't matter whether the court vindicated him or they didn't vindicate him at the time. So he's going through a new process. So if Nigerians are subjected, even going through interviews, that you are being recruited for a job in an organization, you show your credentials from day one to the last. You don't come, for instance, for myself now, I go and show you my PhD. So where is the foundation that brought me to that point of PhD? There must be a link. There must be, a significant relationship between one and the other and the other. And so if it is absent, it means that institutions in Nigeria, democratic institutions in Nigeria, generally institutions in Nigeria have failed to live up to their expectations. Because, what we have in Nigeria are institutions that are lame dog, like lame dog. They cannot act as at when due. So if ICPC, for instance, is investigating, one of the former ministers over forgery and all that. So why can they not also investigate, why somebody should bring, first degree and not have a foundation?
Maybe that's
everybody has failed.
Maybe that's the job of the opposition. The way the law is written now is very tricky because the law has made it even more difficult. I think I've forgotten the exact provision. It used to be forgery of certificate used to be a condition for disqualification. As it is in the Constitution, it's been removed as a ground for petition because now they said it has to be won on the field. And then even if that person is being challenged for whatever certificate issue, the challenger must be somebody who contested the primaries with the president or whoever that candidate that eventually emerged as the flag bearer of the party. So have we automatically used institutional structures to shut this down permanently?
That's absolute nonsense. I understand when they will ask you, how does when somebody goes to court to challenge that, how does that affect you as a citizen? Of course, it affects us because the person is vying for the position to govern us. And so that is to that extent that it is my business. I'm not a tombow fly, whatever the court says and all that. And so, but unfortunately in Nigeria, they use all kinds of technicality, to knock down, persons who are challenging, this. So why must I be on ballot paper with contesting as president before I can challenge, one candidate who is running for presidency? Of course, as a Nigerian, because they are coming there to govern me. So I deserve the right. And so when courts do that, and I wonder why, judges will look at these things and begin to, I don't know where it's coming from. Unfortunately for me, or for us as Nigerians, if Mr. President, studied accounting and all, there's no problem about that. If he also has only school cert, there's no problem about that. After all, it happened to whether it was Shomele or somewhere in Edo State, where he had to present for the first school living certificate at the time. And it was okay. I was going through, those who say they want to govern us today. Some of them ended up with a higher national diploma or that kind of thing. But they've been in government over time. Some of them ended with a BA and all that. But they are the ones that are dictating the pace. And no wonder a lot of things are happening in Nigeria where, as a professor who has been in the university system over time, that the politicians will gloss over,
all right,
what they've been doing over time. Why would that one not happen?
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Prof, we're totally out of time. My sincere apologies, Prof. We're enjoying what your submission, but totally out of time. Professor Kenneth Nweke is a political analyst. He lectures at the Ajuri University in Ignatius Ajuri University of Education in Rivers State. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And that's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.